Question: how is a narcissistic personality disorder diagnosed? And is the person doing the diagnosis, right? Let's just be real. Are they coming from a space of an actual science? There is some question that psychiatry isn't an actual science. They consider it a pseudoscience. Some people do, right? Crazy stuff. Is there a cure / treatment for narcissistic personality disorder? I'm of the same mindset as Doc. I think everyone is narcissistic, especially in this culture. You can't not be. You can't not be, right? Should ageism, racism, sexism, and classism be seen as a type of societal narcissism? What about nationalism? My country, fuck yours. Let's go to war, bitch. Hey, what do we do, right? I'm just saying. This is it. What about religion? We're the chosen ones. The rest of you are fodder for the devil. Spiritual narcissism. It's every institutional narcissism, right? I studied at Cambridge. You went to DeVry. I'm going to get the job, right? I'm just saying. Narcissism is in the fabric of our society. Yes or no? Somebody call us at 855-878-4652. More questions. How do you know when you're dealing with a narcissist, right? Are narcissists more likely to be takers than they are givers? How about it? Very interesting questions. Can mild narcissism be a good thing? Is mild narcissism a kind of confidence? Where does the line get blurred? From conceit, confidence, arrogance to, fuck it, he's a narcissist, right? Is there such thing as some healthy selfishness? Like, isn't there a point in some relationships where you just go, it's time for me to be about me? I've been about you long enough. It's time for me to be about me. When does that cross the line? And think of this. If you're a narcissistic parent, are you now raising your child in an environment to where when they get into intimate relationships, they attract a narcissist like you? You remember that old saying, daughters date dudes that remind them of their dad? Right? Not to say dad's a narcissist, but to say there's this natural inclination to kind of gravitate towards individuals that you were raised by. So say mom's a narcissist, right? And you magnetize a narcissist in your life because that's what you're used to. That's what, you attract who raised you, what you are. Isn't that an interesting concept? 855-878-4652. We have a caller on the line. I think it's important that we get to them. Miss Jones, talk to us about this concept of narcissism. Are you dating one? Are you in trouble?
Hey, though, this is Linda.
Linda Jones, you're dating a narcissist, aren't you? Or is it you? It could be Linda.
Would a narcissist call in? I guess they'd...
yes, she would.
Are you being narcissistic by calling in and saying, listen to me? I mean, Hi, Linda.
Hello. I'm wondering, my ex-husband told me recently that God told him to let me know that he forgives me for him cheating on me. Is that a narcissistic behavior?
Wow, that's a hella question. Did you hear that, Doc? Her ex-husband told her, I forgive you because you made me cheat on you.
But God told him to let me know.
God told him. This nigga's Joan of Arc. God told him.
God told him to forgive you for pushing him to cheat on you?
That's what happened. God told me, you're forgiven.
Well, no, I'd say, Linda, you know the answer. That's pretty narcissistic. If he's what he's really saying is, it's really interesting. The more, and tell me if he's this way, the more immature someone is, the more they believe that they are entitled to act on whatever their impulses are.
Yes.
Because part of maturity is pausing before you act on an impulse. We all have impulses. And that doesn't mean you should walk around suppressed and repressed like I am on this show, compared to my co-host.
And there's the joke attempt again.
It's the ignorant white comment of the day.
This is your conscience speaking.
I'm done.
Make your point and move on.
wait, that was point 3 about interrupting somewhere. I think what he was saying is, I was entitled to cheat on you, and it's interesting. There's a distinction between being entitled and deserving. And what's interesting is most narcissists act entitled, and what that means is. And they have something called narcissistic rage when you confront them. The reason being is that when you're entitled to something without deserving it, when someone says, no, you can't have that, you can't back it up. You don't have any substance because you're acting entitled instead of deserving. Whereas if you're a deserving person and someone says no to you, you may be upset, but then you pause and you make your case because you have earned it. So it sounds like he was a very entitled, immature guy. In 2.2, we'll be back.
You like that? You heard the music. You could have finished your point. You had a little something to go.
I didn't feel entitled to it.
Hysterical. Listen, we're about to take a quick break, but when we come back, more questions, more guests, more information about narcissism. I don't believe it's a real disease. Let's get into it when we come back. So what mornings? 855-878-4652. We'll be back at 2.2. Holla!
One of the questions that comes up periodically is to what extent could a corporation be considered to be psychopathic? And if we look at a corporation as a legal person, that it may not be that difficult to actually draw the transition between psychopathy in the individual to psychopathy in a corporation. We can go through the characteristics that define this particular disorder one by one and see how they might apply to corporations. They would have all the characteristics. And in fact, in many respects, corporation of that sort is the prototypical psychopath.
Ladies and gentlemen, our country is a corporation. Our culture behaves like a corporation, like a psychopath. How then, if we are raised in this society, are we not all narcissists and psychopathic and selfish to some degree? Dr. G, talk to me about the DSM.
They every decade or two they do a revision of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for the American Psychiatric Association. So they come up with all the latest illnesses and codes, and that's important for coding, for diagnoses, to get insurance to pay and all that. And in the recent edition, which is very controversial, I could be wrong, but I believe they have deleted narcissism as a disorder. So they don't have narcissistic personality disorder. And the reason for that is they believe that too many people are narcissistic.
How about it?
Meaning, I think you just said it. I think more and more people are self-involved. I heard a really good quote that I thought was kind of eloquent. And it said, people don't do what's important to them. They do what they care about. And the best people care about what's important to others.
That's good.
And so how often do you see people pausing to do something where they actually care about what's important to others?
But don't you think it's dangerous for the professional ilk of our society, and I'm talking about the doctors and the clinicians and the psychologists, to make a disease out of selfishness?
Well,
that's an interesting angle here.
Well, through all, at least past few decades in terms of psychiatry and diagnosis, they do something, I think this is interesting, they do something between, they call it something between an axis 1 or axis 2. An axis 1 is biological stuff that often needs, unfortunately, medication. That's schizophrenia, bipolar, manic depressive,
antisocial.
Depression. No, not antisocial. So axis 2 is the personality disorders. And personality disorders, they only respond to meds if they have an underlying, psychosis or depression. You can have a personality problem plus those other things. And the treatment, as flawed as it is for personality disorders, is psychotherapy. And you bring up an interesting point about, can narcissists be helped? And the definition, unfortunately, of psychopaths is they can't be helped. Now, that shouldn't mean we throw away the towel, but the idea is if they can't experience remorse, if they can't experience any responsibility for their actions, then why change them? But a narcissist, they're not always that way. Sometimes,
that's interesting.
In fact, I've kind of turned a corner because I'm often brought in to help narcissistic people who are very smart and very good at what they do, but they run over other people. And the distinction I make, and I'll push them away, is I'll treat anyone who's a narcissist because they don't know any better. But if they take delight in hurting people,
they know,
especially or hurting people below them, I won't work with them because I can't root for them.
Right.
And so there are some people that are self-involved because they don't know any better. And often the way I screen those people is sometimes if they're very smart, I'll listen to them and they'll be bragging and whatever. And I do something called the Columbo maneuver, which is after the detective. And so they're crowing and whatever, and they're talking, and then I'll sort of hit my head and I'll go, oh, it's a shame. And they'll say, what? I'll say, no, keep talking. And then I'll say, oh, it's a shame. And they'll say, what's a shame? And I'll say, do you know how much success you're leaving on the table because of how you piss people off? I mean, you've done well enough to get to this point, and they're bringing me in because, you're pretty good at what you do. But you are leaving success on the table, and you have no idea how much you're leaving. So that often hooks them in because they want to be more successful. But those people I always put on probation.
Wow. So really quickly, we have two more of our regular cast members in the building right now. For the old school Murfreesboro, keep it real, down to the ground, old school wisdom, my uncle, Bobby Glanton Smith, is in the building, for one. And then for the feminine, modern, sister, intelligent woman's perspective, Brandy McGee.
It's in the building.
In the building. Talk to me, Bobby, about narcissism. Is it just some fancy medical term that a bunch of white people got together? Because let me say something about this, too. Back to Doc's point about the DSM. Early in the DSM's life, homosexuality was in the DSM. And then they got together and decided to take that out as a disease. Who makes the decision on what's a disease and what's not a disease? And if everybody's narcissistic, why should we even waste our time talking about it? Talk to me about that,
Well,
Bobby.
I'm going to say something about Bobby. Okay, got to make an answer.
Oh, shit.
He's going to, I asked before if black people blush, so we'll see if this makes him blush.
You're about to do something crazy.
Bobby
don't play. Real men don't play.
What I like about Bobby is I think he's the least narcissistic of all of us on the show, of the black males. And the reason for that
this is great.
is I think that, look, you and Jeff, your radio host, and me, I'm sort of, ramping up my narcissism so I can get heard occasionally. But, but part of us suffer from listen to me, listen to me, listen to me. And what I like about Bobby, when he speaks, it's kind of listen to this. It's not so listen to me, but I love, he comes in, well, listen to this, and this is how I sort of make sense of it. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong, but I think that's a great quality that he brings to the show, and that's why we don't bring him up that often for that reason.
Bobby, he complimented you.
And I appreciate it because I don't get many of those. And it gave me an opportunity to just really reflect on this notion of narcissism. I don't even know how to spell it. I used to, but I'm having trouble with some of the R's and the C's and all of that now.
It's all good.
And it's because I dismiss most of it on this belief, and that is self-confidence is sometimes considered narcissism. Sometimes people who are insecure act narcissistic to, cover their flaws. And I think I fall somewhere in the middle. I know people, and that's why I really appreciate you feeling that way, and I believe it's genuine, because I pissed enough people off that they don't even bother with pretending that they like me or even respect what I got to say. And I've gotten old enough not to give a shit. And I'm real comfortable with that because the first thing I had to learn was I'm gonna have to just deal with the fact that I am what I am, and in some circles that's intimidating to people. And I learned that primarily from being around high-profile folks who I didn't have to even struggle with. Look at me, or all of that, because other people draw that out of me sometimes. And to know that I'm in a circle of people where I don't have to go through that, it appears that I'm not as narcissistic as other people swear that I am. So it's a conundrum for me to try to figure out where I fit in the profile of narcissism, but I'm going to take to heart what you said and say thank you very much.
Wow.
Well, something,
wow.
I just got a flash on you. So I love having you on the show, and I think part of it is you are owned by something, and what you're owned by is the truth as you understand it. And then you share the truth as you understand it. And it comes across in a wonderful way, as opposed to, this is my point of view and you better respect it. And it's just, I think, you're a role model for how to be able to, stand up for something, and not make it all ego-driven. So I love having you on the show.
Okay, that's a good point. Brandy?
That's fantastic. I'm just sitting here enjoying the love that's in the room right now.
Well, it's respect. It's respect. Love. Yeah.
Brandy, talk to us about...
respect you too.
Well, thank you,
of course.
Dr. Mark.
Talk to us about social media and the selfie craze. You've got some people saying now that, selfies and social media is actually increasing narcissism amongst teens, amongst adults. What do you think of that?
I absolutely believe it is, because it's I have friends, especially, well, it's not especially women, it's a little bit of everybody, but maybe so, especially women. It's like they have built a following of people on social media by snapping a picture and saying, look at me, look at my makeup, look at my boobs, look at my butt, look at my
classic sink
look
shot.
at me in the gym. Yeah. I mean, everything is sort of driven around kind of this sort of look at me attitude, and social media has taken that to, people take you into places where you would never go before. I've seen people post things on the internet of them getting waxed and, just really personal things. And it's like, why is it that you are that much into yourself that you think that we need to share this part of your life with you?
Maybe Bobby can